Welcome to a winning mental health movement, a space where we turn conversations into action for mental health. I'm Karis Myrick, the Senior Vice President of Partnerships and Innovation at Inseparable, and I'm thrilled to be here to guide you through this series with my fellow co-hosts. Inseparable is a national organization driving transformative policy change to build a mental health system one win at a time that works for everyone, because no one should have to struggle alone.
I'm Kathleen Doughty, and I serve as the SVP of Campaigns and Communications at Inseparable. Inseparable's work is all about hope, action, and impact, and that's exactly what this podcast embodies. In this series, we'll learn from experts on the front lines of mental health advocacy, break down life-saving policy wins, plan for the work ahead, and hopefully inspire you to join the movement.
Because we can't do this without you. I'm Allie Larson, Director of Policymaker and Candidate Relations here at Inseparable. And as part of our WIN workshop, we've been training with advocates across the country to build a grassroots movement for mental health care. This podcast series was adapted from the live virtual sessions we conducted with our inaugural cohort to help distribute critical information to the people fighting for better mental health policy. Whether you're a policymaker, a caregiver, or someone who's struggled to get help, this is your invitation to join us as we learn how to not just fight, but win mental health campaigns, because winning saves lives.
The reason we call it WIN workshops is the focus on winning and your work that you do every day. When you win, you're saving lives and you're improving lives. And that is no small thing. That is why we don't just say, let's get in the arena and do our best. We get in there and say, we're going to win, because it makes a difference if we are good at this or if we are bad at this.
Hello, and welcome to the WIN workshop, where we like to win, and we're going to teach you how to do that. So it's exciting to kick this off. So let's look at what we're going to be doing. So today we're going to be talking about introducing this idea of strategic campaign management for winning mental health movement. And today we're going to hear from Bill Smith, the founder of Inseparable and the WIN workshop. And he's going to talk about utilizing strategic campaigns to build a robust mental health movement.
Hey, everybody. Bill Smith. I use he, him pronouns. I am based in Marshall, Virginia. And I thought I would start with a really quick introduction of Inseparable. You know, my story, I grew up in rural Alabama, and I started working in campaigns and elections right after I got out of college. I'm sad to say that was a very long time ago. Then I spent most of my career bouncing around the country doing campaign and political work, largely around the freedom to marry. And all the while that I was bouncing around the country doing that work, focused on building power for the LGBTQ community, I'm the youngest of three. My older brother, Jack, suffered from severe depression. He was diagnosed as bipolar. And 6.5 years ago, we lost him to mental illness. And as you would imagine, it devastated my family, just like it has devastated way too many families in our country. It's something that, you know, it was like a bomb going off in my life. But after he died, I met a philanthropist that was also trying to make meaning at that moment in their life and figure out what they could do in mental health. So we did what you do when you work with people who are philanthropists. We kind of did the grand tour of the mental health field, and we interviewed so many people, people with lived experience, clinicians, advocates, policymakers, people with a lot of the organizations represented here today. And, you know, what was so profound to me was that there are so many brilliant people that were doing great things and knew what we needed to get done to change the broken systems about mental health in our country. But there weren't as many people focused on building the political power and the social movement and the tools that we needed to win. And so that's what led us to start Inseparable in 2020. I don't advise starting new nonprofits 2 months into a global pandemic, but that's what we did. And we started working around core areas. And I wanted to just say a few minutes about those today because it really does ground what we do. The first is that mental health issues start early in life. You all know this. We all know this. So we think it's incredibly important to focus on young people and to make sure that they have the resources that they need for their mental health. The second is that we know that too many people, when they're at their worst moment in a mental health crisis, are diverted often to the wrong types of systems and get the wrong response. So we're focused on really building out that crisis continuum of care so that everyone gets the right response and their worst day doesn't lead to even worse outcomes. The next piece is the mental health workforce, because we know we have to have a larger and more culturally competent workforce to handle all the different mental health challenges that are out there. It really is underneath all of the other work and something that is really critical for us to address. And the last one is around access to care. There's such a huge gap between who has care and who needs it in our country. And one of the core areas of that is what gets paid for. We're going to talk a good bit about coverage across the course of the WIN workshop for a couple reasons. One is, we believe that the basic premise that good mental health care should be easy to get and easy to afford is one of those head nod agreement statements that everybody can agree with us and that we can build out from that. We're going to talk a little bit more about different things that we know you all are working on, you're passionate about, and what you bring to this. But we're going to keep coming back to this theme so we have a common frame of reference here. One of the things that we are unbelievably happy about is the amount of success that Inseparable has been able to have because of our work with so many brilliant partners around the country, many of whom are on this call, in delivering concrete wins across those areas that I just talked about. We've had 57 wins so far across 20 states in each of those programmatic areas. And we think it's so important to work across all of them to not only real wins that matter for real people's lives, but also to show people that mental health is not a coastal issue. It is a red state issue, a blue state issue, whether you live in a rural area or an urban center. This issue impacts everybody, and we think it's really important to take that message all across the country. The real impact for us is the point of doing all of this. Things like, so every school district in my home state of Alabama is now required to have a mental health services coordinator in the school system. That's not something that we had growing up, and it's something that is already making a difference. In Illinois, last year, partnering with a lot of wonderful organizations and Governor Pritzker, we passed a bill that bans insurance companies from having ghost networks, where when you've had parents that just call and call through that provider directory trying to find someone to treat their child, and it's inaccurate. It's maddening when that happens. That's no longer allowed there. We also got rid of fail first therapy, where you have to take the wrong drug before you can get to the right drug just because it was cheaper for the insurance company. And also getting rid of bogus medical necessity denials, which is a term that we think needs a whole lot of work. And I highlight a couple of these wins because strategic campaigns were behind those. And that's the point of what we really want to get at with you over the course of the WIN workshop. So what does strategic campaign management look like? This wheel, we hope you're going to spend quite a lot of time with over the course of the WIN workshop. And this is really how we work. The idea is that it's almost never just one thing that lets you be successful in passing major policy reforms. It's almost always a combination of different parts of a campaign. For us, it also means a way of being as you do the work. It means being really nimble so that you're able to listen and respond quickly with what the needs of a specific scenario are. That you're really strategic about who shows up who are the people that we bring into legislative environments to tell their stories? And who do we empower so that we have activists talking to their legislators and their governors and other policymakers and really getting in the game? But we want you to spend time with the wheel and learn each of these segments and how to bring those into your work. We're big believers in constantly learning at Inseparable. I'm aging myself to say that I've been doing this work for 30 years, but I have, and I'm still learning every day. So our goal that we see, which is the same as when we founded Inseparable 5 years ago, is that we want a really big, empowered universe of policy and advocacy ninjas to go out there and run these campaigns. And from knowing the people here already a little bit, you already are. But what we want to do is talk about all the different areas of work and how we can learn together. So the types of things that we hope you'll learn over the course of this conversation together are what it really takes in those critical moments in a campaign to get something, say, to move a piece of policy to a governor's desk. So we're going to go about that a number of different ways. The first is fireside chats with experts. We're going to bring people to you who have played critical roles in winning and passing major legislation, and to talk about what they do, what they've learned, what are the pitfalls. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to use the health insurance example as one that we keep referring back to. We think that's critically important for people to get better access to mental health care. We also just think it's good for us to have a common reference so that we're all thinking together about the different elements of campaign management and what we would bring to bear in achieving that result. And as many of you know, Inseparable also believes that those of us in the mental health advocacy movement, we don't hold all the truth. There's a lot of expertise from other successful campaigns out there from different movements, be it racial justice, women's rights, LGBT rights, climate. There are all kinds of movements out there that have been doing smart things. And we want to bring in people that can help teach lessons that we can then apply. You know, what I hope over the course of these conversations that you will also get are some things that are really everyday things that we're dealing with at Inseparable. Like, when should we push? When should we back off? For a certain legislator, when do they need to hear from their constituents? When you're working with lobbyists, when do you really want to push them? Or when do you want to trust sort of the rhythm of legislative sessions? There are all these really detailed questions when you're in the process of trying to do policy change about how you manage your interactions with all these different types of people. And it's always a mix of those things that are on the wheel. But what we hope that you'll be able to do throughout this series is have conversations about what it really means to be in that campaign manager role or the role that you're currently in, and understand how to bring all the elements to bear to do what it takes to win. The reason we call it Win Workshops is because the focus on winning and your work that you do every day, when you win, you're saving lives and you're improving lives. And that is no small thing. That is why we don't just say, let's get in the arena and do our best. We get in there and say, we're going to win, because it makes a difference if we are good at this or if we are bad at this. That's why we're building the team every day. That's why we want to be in partnership with you. We want to learn from you and your experiences. We want you to learn from the experts that come to be a part of this. You're not just the first cohort of the Win Workshop. You are leaders that awe and inspire us every day. That's why you're here. And so we invite you to bring your full self, your experiences, and the work that you've done into this conversation, because we think winning together, we will build a more powerful movement for mental health, and that we will be an unstoppable force to fix the problems that we all know are out there together. And we are so excited that you're with us. This was an idea that we were kicking around in the fall, and to see all of your faces here and to think about where we're going to go over the course of the year together is incredibly exciting.
And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you for joining us as we work to turn mental health policy into real wins that save lives. Remember, change doesn't happen by accident. It happens when people like you make it happen.
Want to keep the momentum going? Visit inseparable.us to find toolkits, campaign resources, and ways to take action in your community. And if today's conversation resonated with you, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, because mental health advocacy grows when we work together.
This podcast is just the beginning. If you're ready to go deeper, make sure you catch up on this entire series to get trained on how to fight and win mental health campaigns in your state. Because when we organize, we don't just make noise, we make change.
Thanks again for listening. I'm Karis Myrick.
I'm Kathleen Doughty.
And I'm Allie Larson, and we'll see you on the next episode.